What is up, guys? It is Luke back again with another way too early video. In today's video, we have the way too early top 10 wide receivers for the 2021 fantasy season. Now, before we get started, just a reminder, this is all .5 PPR format. So if you have a different format, take everything with a grain of salt and adjust accordingly. Now, before we get into the video even more, I want to say there's about 14 to 15 receivers that could really be on this list. And so just because you disagree with what is on the list, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're a big boy. Get fucking over it, okay? If you want to pick someone else, pick someone else. I'm just telling you how it is, though. All right. Number 10. Starting things off with some controversy. We have Julio Jones. Now, Julio Jones, as it seems every other year, and not literally every other year, but every other year, was injured. Now, kind of like Matt Ryan, Julio Jones has these hills and these valleys, right? These peaks and these valleys where he's a stud on fantasy or he's a dud on fantasy depending on the year and depending on what is happening in his life. Now, last year, Julio obviously was hurt for a lot of the games and he only posted about 800 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, he had 68 targets and 51 receptions as well, but the biggest takeaway I had when reviewing his numbers and reviewing the games he played in is the target share. Now, Calvin Ridley last year had 75 more targets than Julio Jones. 75. Now, I know Julio was hurt, and that number should be closer, and it will be closer, which is why I have Julio number 10. There is no way Calvin Ridley is going to out-target Julio Jones by 75 again. And since Calvin really had a great year last year, I think he's going to receive more attention this year, opening the door for Julio to receive more one-on-one coverage or a double team with perhaps a linebacker or a nickel corner. Now, with all this being said, I think Julio is in a prime position to put on a fantasy comeback that isn't seen too often, and honestly, Julio Jones can easily finish in the top 10 because I think Atlanta's offense is severely underrated this year. Number 9, we have Scary Terry. Now, Terry McLaurin was sensational last year despite incompetent quarterback play, and he posted 87 receptions on 134 targets with about 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. So right off the bat, there is room for positive regression in his touchdown departments, and he could easily put up 7 to 8 touchdowns in that offense. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the offense, but I am a huge fan of Big Dick Fitz, who is new in the building, baby, and ready to light up the facility with some magical moments. Now, Terry McLaurin will finish top 10, and honestly has the potential to finish top 5, because this dude is an elite receiver. He is the real deal. Now, he's also like the only good offensive player on that team, if we're being honest. Like, he was single-handedly carrying that offense last year when they had fucking one-legged ass Alex Smith running around and shit. Like, I love Alex Smith, and he's a great story about his comeback and everything. But when the dude couldn't outrun a fucking 8-year-old with a water gun, how the fuck was he supposed to outrun Aaron Donald breathing down his neck? You know what I mean? So for fuck's sake, Terry McLaurin was working with a dude that couldn't move, and yet he still had a pretty good season. So now that he's going to have like a pretty decent quarterback, I assume his fantasy production is only going to go up, and top 10 seems very realistic for Terry McLaurin. Number 8, Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was a stud last year. Right out the gates, rookie year, didn't matter. 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 88 catches. Fucking chalk, baby. Justin Jefferson was chalk every fucking week last year. Chalk. Put him in, keep him in, doesn't matter who he's playing. Nah, he's going off. Here we go. Keep him moving. However, the only thing that holds Justin Jefferson back is being on the Vikings offense. Now, I'm not saying their offense is bad, because their offense is actually pretty decent. But what I'm saying is their offense is a run-first team. And it makes sense because they have Alex Madison and Dalvin Cook. But that also means Justin Jefferson has a somewhat limited ceiling. Now, he had 125 targets last year, which led the team, surprisingly, over Adam Thielen. But I don't really see that target number going up very much. Like, I think he can produce fairly similar numbers. But the reason he's at 8 is because I don't really see his ceiling being as elite as especially the first couple people on this list. But more or less, like I can't really see a way Justin Jefferson reaches top 5 unless the Vikings redistribute how they want to use the ball on offense. Like, there's just no, in my brain, there's just no way that he can finish in top 5 unless he has insane positive regression in terms of his touchdown getting potential and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's nowhere to improve. Like, 1,400 yards could stagnate, could go up. And now, obviously, everything might go up because of their 17 games. But I'm saying, like, on average, you know what I mean? So, 1,400 yards probably stagnate. 7 TDs probably stagnate. 88 catches could go up, but only had 125 targets anyway. And with defenses keying on him a little bit more next year, I don't know. Like, I love Justin Jefferson, but I feel like 8 is a good spot for him just because his ceiling isn't quite there for me. Number 7, DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson. Now, obviously, if Russ isn't there, I don't know where DK goes. Like, I don't know where I put him on this list. I probably don't put him on this list. I guess it depends who else, plays quarterback for them. But this is assuming Russ stays. But what do we got to say about DK? Decaf. Usually DK is like a pretty polarizing player for people. Like for some reason people either love him or hate him. I'm just kind of indifferent towards him. Like I don't really give a fuck about him that much. Like he's just kind of there. He's a freak athlete, and so I don't know why people were surprised he's good, but whatever. But the thing with DK is he has that explosive potential similar to like Tyreek Hill. You know what I mean? Like there's any given play in the game, the dude could just catch like an 83-yard like bomb or an 83-yard fucking screen pass and just yoink past everyone. You know what I mean? So he really has the potential for those explosive plays and explosive games that really are like a joy to have on your team. You have one of those players that just explodes randomly and you're just like, oh, that was fucking awesome. Let's do that again. Let's do that shit every week. But overall, yeah, DK, 83 receptions, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, all solid numbers. Obviously with Seattle's defense still being fucking dog shit, they're gonna be throwing the ball every fucking play, and it kind of sucks that they won't address their offensive line because if they did, like their offense could be even better. But it'd be how it be sometimes. I think DK at number 7, he has the potential to push top 5 easily. I think especially with Russ at quarterback, DK could finish in the top 5 this year. Staying safe, number 7, I think is very reasonable. You get DK in the second round, I would take him, bro, because like I said, you have that ability to just have a player that can go off at any given moment, and not too many players are like that. Number 6, oh, what a poor soul. Allen Robinson. I personally love A-Rob, and I would love him more if the Bears would free him from that fucking dog shit prison they call an offensive system. But despite their shortcomings as an organization, A-Rob posted 102 receptions, 1,250 yards, and 6 touchdowns in his 2020 campaign, and was honestly one of the very, very few bright spots on the offensive side of the ball for Chicago. Now, at the time of the recording, he just signed his franchise tag, so he will be back in Chicago this year. I mean, it's hard to turn down 18 mil, especially in this economy, this dip in the salary cap and everything. So he'll be back in Chicago. So that kind of sucks because what the fuck is going on there with the quarterback? They got Andy fucking Dalton throwing the ball. I mean, Andy Dalton not the worst quarterback, I guess, but like, come on, bro. Like A-Rob's like your only good player, and you got a mediocre quarterback to try to make him better. That's tough. I would love to see A-Rob on another team, bro. And like, I'm not a Bears fan or a Bears hater or anything. I just hate to see like all this trap potential. Like the dude could go anywhere else. Oh my god, he'd be top 5. He'd easily be top 5. The only reason he's not in the top 5 is because he's on the fucking Bears. Despite all this, and despite being on the shitty offense, I really think A-Rob actually could see a little bit of positive regression. Like he only had 6 touchdowns. Now I think the Bears only scored 6 fucking touchdowns all year, so he might have had all of them. But realistically, I think A-Rob could get like 8 or 9. So number 6, keep him there. He's a pretty safe bet, I think. He gets a lot of catches, decent amount of yards, but yeah, this is a guy I'd pick late second round easily. Number 5, Stefon Diggs. Now, Stefon Diggs was the primary beneficiary of a breakout season by Josh Allen. And not only that, Stefon Diggs led the NFL in targets with 166. As we know, Diggs had aspirations to be a number 1 receiver. So here he is in Buffalo, and what'd he do? Oh yeah, he became a fucking superstar wide receiver. The dude had 127 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 8 touchdowns, and he looked to dominate every game. Every game the dude looked like he was fucking there to play, and every game he fucking delivered, bro. Now, 1,500 yards is probably not going to happen again. Like, I love Josh Allen, and I like the Bills and everything, but 1,500 yards is a fuckload of yards for a receiver. Now, they don't really have too many other people to throw the ball to, so maybe he does it again. But realistically, he'll probably regress a little bit, especially because he had 166 targets. That'll probably go down a little bit as well. But even with like some slight regression in like the catches and yards and whatever, his TD should probably stagnate or whatever, so that'd be about the same. But I really think that even with some slight regressions, Diggs retains like his top wide receiver or his top 5 wide receiver upside. And yeah, I would definitely pick him. He's definitely my 5th best receiver. Like I could argue him a little higher than some of these people as well. But yeah, Diggs at number 5. Not really too much going on there. Just Diggs at number 5. Just a solid dude. Number 4, DeAndre Hopkins. Speaking of wide receivers benefiting from an explosion at quarterback, D-Hop had 160 targets in 2020, which is the second most in the NFL. The Cardinals made some adjustments this offseason and actually reinforced their offensive line a little bit, especially with the addition of Rodney Hudson and the addition of A.J. Green. It looks like the Cardinals will have another impressive offensive performance in 2021, and D-Hop is the centerpiece of this offense. So it's easy to make the argument to draft D-Hop in the top 3, and honestly, number 3 on my list is extremely controversial and could easily fall down all the way to about 8 or 9 if you really wanted to argue him that hard. But D-Hop is number 4 for me, mainly because I think he'll be on a top 10 offense, and he'll be the primary centerpiece of that offense. And you know, it's D-Hop, bro. He can catch anything. Number 3. This is going to be the most controversial person on this list, but it's Michael Thomas. Now, there's a lot of recency bias regarding Michael Thomas, because if you picked him in the first round last year, chances are that season did not go super well for you. Like, maybe you picked up somebody early, and maybe you salvaged the season, but busting on your first pick that hard, oof, tough to win a championship that way, you know? The thing I like about Michael Thomas this year specifically is that they got famous Jameis, the LASIK laser, slinging the ball around for them, baby. Jameis does not give a fuck what team you play for, who's open, who's not. That ball is coming out of his fucking hands, and somebody is catching it. And you know who's going to win those contested catches? Michael fucking Thomas, baby. Now, it's easy to stay away from MT because of those same reasons, but I personally love him. I think the Saints defense is kind of slipping a little bit, so maybe they'll have to throw the ball a little bit more. Obviously, they have Alvin Kamara to balance them out a little bit, but bottom line is, like, I think if you can snipe MT in the second round, he can easily provide first round upside for you. And it's just hard for me to ignore that in a player that I think everybody's sleeping on this year, because there's a lot of changes in New Orleans. They're not really too sure how good their offense is going to be. Not even too sure how good their defense is going to be, or like how good the team will be in general. But honestly, I like Jameis Winston. I was picking Mike Evans every year when fucking Jameis Winston was the quarterback, and it always worked out well. So I just like Michael Thomas. I know it's controversial. He's pretty high up on this list. You could easily make the argument that D-Hop, Stefon Diggs, and even A-Rob are fucking better than him. But I just can't. I just can't ignore the value that I see in Michael Thomas right here. Number 2, Tyreek Hill. Now look, just think about it for a second. How fucking fun is fantasy when Tyreek Hill is on your roster? The dude, in a similar manner to DK, but way fucking better, can just catch a goddamn bomb at any given fucking second. You can go into your fucking kitchen to make a sandwich, up 30 fucking points in fantasy, come out, fucking 30 seconds later, right? 30 seconds later, you come out of your kitchen. Hey, look, I got a nice fucking sandwich. Bam! Tyreek Hill is fucking dancing in the fucking end zone, and now all of a sudden you're tied again. Oh no, week fucking ruined. But if that dude is on your roster, oh my goodness, it is the best feeling ever when the dude is just catching rockets from Patty Mahomes, and you always know you're in the game. Like, when Tyreek Hill has that 425 slot or Sunday night, Monday night slot, it doesn't matter how much you're down by, you know you have the potential to come back. And just because of that, Tyreek Hill is number 2. Aside from catching the ball 87 times for 1,300 yards on 135 targets and 17 total touchdowns. Aside from all that, aside from just putting up stud numbers, Tyreek Hill is just so fun to have on your team. And picking him at the end of the first round, or if you're lucky, on the turn, oh, dude, it's just such a fucking good feeling to have him. Some downsides, Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs did lose a couple offensive linemen. They brought in a couple or whatever. So maybe they don't yuck the ball deep every play like they've been doing. Maybe they have to do some more intermediate stuff because of the timing. But honestly, who the fuck cares? You'll see some touchdown regression, some negative touchdown regression, because 17 is, hard to beat. But overall, Hill is just such an exciting player with just explosive upside. Number 1, who the fuck do you think it is? No, you need me to say it? Devonta Adams. Devonta Adams had a historical year last year. The dude literally had 18 touchdowns in about 13 games. Like, he played in 14 games, but he got hurt in one of them. So it was literally 13 games, 18 touchdowns with 1,400 yards on 115 catches and 149 targets. So you see his stat lines, you're like, wow, this dude is literally being force-fed by Aaron Rodgers. He's being force-fed by Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's exactly what was happening, dude. The dude was the main centerpiece in the Rodgers revenge tour. Now, you can obviously expect some negative regression in terms of his statistical numbers, but honestly, even with some regression, you could argue Adams is a top 5 overall pick. because he could realistically put up these same numbers again, but it'd be over like a 16 to 17 game stretch instead of a 13 game stretch, and it'd still be a top 5 overall pick to me. Now, I'm not a huge fan of drafting receivers in the first round in general, but like I'd be totally fine taking Adams, bro. I literally watched them force feed him the ball. I remember specifically, I forget who they were playing, but there was first and goal on like the 1 inch line, and they threw the ball to Adams 4 straight fucking times. Aaron Rodgers wanted that MVP, probably wants a fucking another one, and D-Hop, and Devonta Adams will catch anything thrown to him, bro. You give him a chance, he's coming down with it. So with that being said, Devonta Adams, number 1. I just can't see a way that you can go somewhere else. And real quick, before the video ends, I would just like to throw in some honorable mentions. Number 1 being Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen could easily be on this list over like Julio Jones and maybe even like a couple other people, because the dude had like 100 catches, about 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. But the thing I don't like about Keenan Allen is kind of weird because like he has so many things going for him. Like he's on an elite offense. A second-year Herbert could literally sling the ball for like 5,000 yards, maybe 4,500 yards realistically. But basically, Herbert's gonna fucking sling it, bro. But to me, Keenan Allen is like perpetually overrated in fantasy. Like he always seems to have like these incredible 5-week stretches every year where the dude just lights the fantasy world on fire. Automatic lock, number 1 receiver, whatever. 5-week stretch, kills it. But then the rest of the time, he's like pretty good, but he's not like amazing. And to me, I just think he's gonna be inflated this year, which is why I'm kind of staying away from him. But like it's just hard for me to put him up there when the dude couldn't get 1,000 yards when he had 147 targets. And like he missed some games. Like he literally got hurt last year, but he still got 147 targets. So you could argue like, dude, he can get like 160 targets. Yeah, you'd be right. But I mean, how many yards is he gonna get with that? Like the dude had 100 catches and not 1,000 yards. It's kind of, I don't know if that's ever happened before. That's kind of wild though. You know, like they're running the fucking Pittsburgh offense out here. Fuck. But bottom line, yeah, even if he gets like 160 targets, his like mediocre yards per catch, especially last season, I can't really see. Like I just don't know. I don't think there's enough weapons on that team outside of like Austin Eckler to truly put them over the hump like that and to truly make Keenan Allen an elite fantasy receiver. But then again, if their offense is top 5, he's going to be. So you know, take that fucking honorable mention with a grain of salt. Next, we have Calvin Ridley. I touched on him a lot earlier. I just feel like he's going to have a lot of regression. And if I had to pick him or Julio, at the moment, I would pick Julio just because Julio is like upside. But if you want to pick Ridley over Julio, I can't really fault you for it. And then lastly, A.J. Brown. I think the loss of Corey Davis is like bigger than people realize. I really think having Corey Davis on the roster kind of freed up A.J. a little bit. Secondly, like Tennessee feels like they're just losing players every fucking day, especially their linemen, and I feel like that could hurt like their running game and like their play action a little bit. So maybe AJ Brown isn't quite as open and they can't throw the ball as efficiently. But Brown does have big play capability. So like you have like these certain weeks where Brown catches these bombs and is a monster, but you also have these weeks where he gets like 6 points and you're just like, what the fuck? So the only reason Brown isn't on the list is because like his inconsistency issues. But bottom line, like all these guys are very close except for the top 2. I think Tyreek Hill and Devonta Adams are kind of in their own little stratosphere up top. But everyone else very, very fluid. So you know it is what it is. All right, that's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.